Hello and howdy, everyone. Welcome to another Angular Air. I'm so very excited. We're starting a series called Back to the Basics, and it's going to be a doozy of a series with an amazing guest today. But before we get to all of that goodness, my name is Lisa Nichol, and with me I have Manfred and Mike. How are you guys doing this morning?
Fine. I like the time. Here it's 9 in the evening, so it's the perfect time for me.
Oh,
It's the end of the work week for me. I have a few more loose ends to tie up after this, and then smooth sailing for the weekend.
aw. I know, the weekend. I almost forgot. I keep forgetting repeatedly that it's Friday, so I'm ready. I'm ready for it. And our guest of honor, I could not think of a better person when I thought of this series and wanting to make just like a better entry point for people who are new to Angular or jumping from one framework over to Angular. Couldn't think of a better person in the whole wide world than the amazing Deborah Kurata to kick us off. So Deborah, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I had a really rough week, so hopefully, I'll be able to focus on this today.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Sending you love and hugs virtually, my love. Oh, now, would you please, for those who are new to the maybe industry, new to Angular, introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Deborah Kurata. I am a software developer, and I am really been focused on Angular these past 10 years or more. Uh, I guess it's been more. But anyway, well over 10 years on focusing on Angular development, and I very much enjoy helping Angular developers learn how to use the tool, learn about new features, and try to provide support for them as I can. I have a YouTube channel, and I try to post weekly, though haven't always been successful. But I have a lot of content out there that might be worth pursuing if you're into YouTube videos.
Excellent. And your channel is underneath your name, correct, on YouTube?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Excellent.
Yeah,
I'm going
just
to
search
link to
for
that
my
in a
name. I'm the
second.
only Deborah Kurata, I think, on the planet. So
Are you really? Dude.
so.
I love that. That's some branding right there. Before we jump into our topic, I almost forgot. Today, our episode is proudly sponsored by BrieBug. They provide enterprise-level Angular expertise from architecture consulting to migrations to team training. So hit up BrieBug.com if you haven't yet. Thank you to our sponsors helping keep this show on the air and free. But Deborah, tell us, what are we talking about today?
Did Mike have a announcement though first?
Oh, right. Mike, are you announcing?
No, I was just giving you guys a heads up earlier that I am not feeling well, that I'm a little under the weather. But now everybody else can know as well. So,
dude, it's that time of year. I don't know about you guys, but I'm taking all the vitamins right now, like all of them. Oh, okay. I'm going to share your screen. Hi, everybody, by the way, in the chat. Good to see you. But yes, Deborah, tell us what amazing topic you'll be covering today.
Well, I was going to do a very start from the beginning look at the signal forms feature that is available in Angular. It's currently available as experimental, but cross our fingers, there's a good possibility it will be available as a normal Angular feature starting as soon as May. So I thought it would be useful to talk about why we have it, what it is, how to make it go. And that's what I have planned for today.
I am so very excited, especially for approaching this topic at hopefully the most basic level we can, because I feel like We've covered it a little bit on the show before, but there were always parts we glossed over or made assumptions about. So thank you for agreeing to come on and dive in with us.
All right, I'm ready to go.
Awesome. We do see your code. So.
All righty. So I pre-created some HTML because that takes a really long time to create. But as you can see here, I have absolutely nothing in my component. And I'm going to go ahead and run this. So right now it's not using any forms package whatsoever. So we have our form coming up. It doesn't have any validation. It doesn't even correctly have the radio buttons working. So we left it all to deal with today. So what's the very first thing that we need to do? Well, of course, the very first thing is you need to come up with your form. And so I've already done that part. And I have specific fields on here. The next thing then that you want to do is you want to have a form package of some kind to work with. Now you could manually code this whole thing, but your best bet always is to work with some kind of form package. Why would you want to use a form package and not just regular data binding and a bunch of code? Well, Angular provides form packages to help us both with an improved data binding where it knows more about how the form works. It provides validation, which almost every single form needs some kind of validation. It handles display of our validation messages, and it allows us some amount of logic with regard to how our form is working. So currently Angular has two form packages. One is called template-driven forms. And the other one is called reactive forms. And both of those have been around since the beginning of the new Angular, like 2016. So they've been around for a long time. There have been pros and cons of each, and neither was quite perfect. So as the Angular team defined signals, they realized that they really needed some improvements to form management to better work with those signals. So they came up with signal forms. And one of the coolest things about signal forms is it ties validation to the data, to your model, and not to your form. So you define the data, you define the validation of that data, and then you connect it, you bind it to your form. The side cool thing about that cool thing is that you can also then use all of your validation logic in non-form situations. So if you have like a data importer, like, okay, I have my user profile, but I have an old system where I used to keep my user profiles and I want to import all of the user profiles into the new system. Well, I can use those exact same validators. And I don't mean looking at them and writing similar code. I mean, I can use the exact same validators to validate utility features, importers, anything that's non-form based in addition to my form-based options. And so that's one of the many cool things about signal forms. Okay.
That also says to me that if we're validating against data, it would be real simplified to write tests for that.
Correct.
All we're doing is validating data. We don't need DOM. We don't need a browser. We don't need anything else. Just run some JavaScript to say, hey, these are some rules. This is some data. Do these pass? What passes? What fails?
That is correct. Yep. Simplified testing. And I think it's sometimes easier to reason about too, because you don't have to be looking through the form, which is true for template-driven forms, to actually see what the validation is. Or then they have those very complicated structures that you have to use with reactive forms, and all that is simplified. So let's dive in. Let's go ahead and start doing this. So
just-
regardless, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just to clarify, what we're looking at in your browser here is just HTML and CSS. There's no JavaScript at all. We're just looking at some inputs, some radios, buttons, and checkboxes and what have you.
And the radio buttons don't even work right currently.
That looks like my radio buttons. Yeah.
Slay.
So, yeah, because if you look at my component, here's my component. See, it has no code. If we look at the form, it has no validation. It's just got labels and inputs. The stuff that's taking up so much space is just the CSS classes. But otherwise, it's a label and input box, a label, a radio button, a label, a checkbox, label, another text box, and some buttons at the bottom. The buttons have no click handlers. I've got nothing in here that's doing anything. So that's where we're starting. So regardless of what forms package that you use or prefer, the very first thing that we always do after we've got the HTML is define your data model, or sometimes we even do that before you've created the HTML for it. We need to know where our data is going to come from and where that data is going to be stored. And so that's no different regardless of your of the techniques that you use for your forms. So I have a user profile.ts file that is currently empty, and that is where I'm going to create my interface from this form. And to save from you having to watch me do so much typing, I'm just going to paste that in. So these are the fields of data that I want in order to support that form. First name, last name, the user type were those radio buttons, employee, guest, and they haven't picked anything yet. Whether they are a full-time employee or not, and what the employee number is, which is actually a string. So that's our interface. So our first step is to have that. Now, since we're going to do signal-based forms, as you might guess, the very next thing that we do is create a signal. So we are going to create a signal. I'm going to call it user profile model equal, and then we're going to define a signal. And I want it to be of type user profile, which is that interface that we just created. Now, signal is unhappy because every signal requires an initial value. So we need an initial value for all of the properties. So again, saving typing, I'm just going to paste those in and reformat that a little bit. Okay, so again, first name, last name, user type is full name and employee number. Okay, so now we have a signal. So our first step was to create our interface. The second step was to create a signal from that interface. Our third step, there are only four steps. The third step is to create our form. So I'm going to call it user profile form equals form, as you might guess. And I'm going to pass in my signal. This dot user profile model. Now I have just created my data structures that support the actual form. So what the form function does is it creates a field tree. So you can see here that the type says field tree on it right here. What the form command does is it creates a field tree, and that field tree is all of these fields in a tree structure. And it then allows me to attach to that field structure validation rules, and we'll see how to do that in a minute. And it also attaches to these fields state information such as, did the user touch that field? Is it dirty? Is it disabled? All of that kind of information. So it's keeping it all in this data structure. Okay, so that's that. Our first step was to create the interface. The second step, signal from that interface. Third step, form from that signal. Okay, the last step then is that we need to connect our individual fields here to our HTML elements. And we do that by way of something called a form field. And so the first thing I need to do is actually import that so that we can use it in our template. And it's called a form field. There it is. I'm getting a little underline because I haven't used it yet. So it's going to tell me, hey, this isn't currently used.
You think you can be like a little patient, just like a little.
Yeah. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Hold on. Okay. So then we go into our form, and for each of our input elements, we specify our directive form field, and then we set it to user profile form dot, let's see, what am I on? First name. And that's all we need to do. We don't need to set up any other kind of attributes or anything. That's all we need to do. And then we go to the next input element and we do the same thing. Form field, oops, directive, there it is. And then again, user profile form dot, now we have last name. Alrighty, and we'll scooch down for our buttons. We're going to do, again, form field, user profile form dot, this is our user type. And this is the same thing here. User profile form dot, oops, user profile form dot user type. By setting the form field to the same field for both of our radio buttons, they'll now work appropriately, where clicking one unclicks the other one. You saw that that wasn't working before. Here is our checkbox. So again, form field equals user profile form dot, this one is full-time employee. And our last one is our employee number. So form field, user profile form dot employee number. Okay, so now we have hooked each of our form elements up to our model so that they are related to each other.
Does the model get grumpy, or does something get grumpy if you don't use everything from the model, or is it not care?
Yeah, no, it doesn't care. So I could add some more stuff and it wouldn't care. So yeah, and as I said, it is holding everything completely separate from the form. So you could even use it completely in a situation where you don't have a form, like on a data importer or anything, and it doesn't care if you use or don't use any of it, tied to a form. Okay, so the other thing I just want to throw in here before we run again is we are working with signals now. So since we're working with signals, we can do fun stuff. Like I can decide that I want to define a full name. And I'm going to use computed, which is another signal that allows you to combine multiple other signals. And in this computed, I'm going to again copy this because it's just a lot of typing. And what I'm doing, as you would guess, a full name is the first name, a space, and the last name. And because this is a signal, it will immediately update as I'm typing. And so I'm going to go up here and display this. So this is going to say user profile for, and then that name. So I'm going to paste that in here. So it's going to say user profile. If there is a name, it's going to say for, and then that person's name. So that we can kind of see the interactivity that we get because we are now working with signals. So if we bring back up our form, we can see that our radio buttons now work correctly. It's one or the other because now they're now bound to the same thing. And if I type my name in here, you'll see that it's showing up here at the top as I'm typing. So previously you would have to use getters and setters or something like that in order to have that reactivity. Now with signals, that all just works.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
So yes, I mean, if you look at how much code is required and you kind of ignore this extra little thing we did, it's creating a signal, passing it into a form, and that's it. Any questions about that before we talk about validation?
There were a couple questions in the chat, but before I get to those, the 4 steps again are the first one was the interface.
Interface,
right?
Yep.
Model.
Form.
And then plugging in form.
Yep. And then the fourth step is all of these little guys, these form field things.
The template.
Hooking it up, hooking the model up to the elements on the form.
So we have first question. Single source of validation is very helpful. Would be interested if there's a pattern that allows Zod, Valibot, or standard schema.
Yes, there's all sorts of documentation about Zod. I'm not sure about the other ones. I have not personally used it, and so I don't have it in my demo today, but there are a lot of discussions and a lot of examples of using something like Zod. Yes.
Let's see. Was that our only one? Oh, someone was asking where's Justin at. Justin has retired, and Manfred has graciously accepted my invitation to be one of our hosts. And he's crushing it, as we can all see. Yes. So, but welcome back, and apologies for your 2-year React hiatus. Let's see. Oh, Michael said, so for a computed value, you would point at the source signal and not the form's value.
Well, and that's one of the other cool things about Signal's forms. There is no other form value. So you're not copying values to the form and copying them out. The form uses the model. It puts the data directly into the model. So you can, from the model, get to that. Otherwise, you can just access it directly. But the data is in the model. As you could see when I did this full name, as I was typing, it was immediately putting it up on my screen, first and last name. I wasn't having to copy it from one data structure to another, because the form is basically wrapping around that signal, and that signal is what it's using to store its data.
So one thing I thought about the other day was, we have just seen it, we use now property bindings, but in fact we get a two-way binding. And of course it makes sense because we are passing down a signal, and down there we can do everything with the signal, reading it, updating it. But on the other side, I mean, you are in a similar position as I when it comes to didactics. Talking to people about this somehow breaks the story, doesn't it? That we don't have the banana in the box here. So do you think we will get it back, or do you have any other impression about this topic from a didactics perspective?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
Okay. So in fact, this is a two-way data binding, but we don't have banana in a box. So this.
Oh, I see what you're saying. We're not doing this here.
Yeah. Technically, it makes sense because we are passing down a signal, but somehow I have the impression this is a bit breaking the didactics, the story, when we tell, hey, if you want to
mental model of how you're
forth,
yeah,
to move back and forth with your data, then go with the banana in the box.
Yeah, I haven't really mentally gone down that path, because it seemed like the form kind of behaves differently, but when you kind of bring that up, it does make sense that you would think that the syntax would be similar.
I thought I saw some in IntelliSense as you were typing to create the form with that form function about models. And I'm wondering if there's some sort of managing of the signal that it's actually a model that's in there. I know you called it model, but that's not what I'm referring to. I know it's a writable signal, but if the form treats it almost like a model input versus a straight input to be able to do the writing. But to your point, when you use model inputs, you're usually doing the banana in the box.
Yeah, that is true. I had never really even thought about that comparison, but yes, it does kind of mess with your mental model if you really have the whole two-way binding. clear in your head that this is kind of
Mhm.
not following that syntax.
Was
But
there
it's
ever,
all,
do you guys recall discussion around bringing that syntax into signals? Or I don't know if
it is
anyone's
there
ever.
with the model inputs, but the interesting thing is that we're not really passing in a signal at this point. We're passing in the idea of a field tree or a form field. So that's what's facilitating the communication, I believe, from the DOM to the model. It's like, hey, here's this facilitator for you to be able to for the form field to be able to manage that.
Yeah, that's
the
an interesting way to think about it.
Hmm.
All right. Well, as we contemplate that question further, I would like to talk about validation because, excuse me, as we know, every form needs, or most forms need some kind of validation. So let's start easy and just do these first two first, where we're going to make the first and last name required, and we're going to make the last name have a minimum of 2 characters. So if you've done reactive forms before, you will notice that the set of validation that you can use is very similar. We've got required, we've got min length, min and max. So a lot of that stuff is similar. So where can you put the validation? Well, one way to deal with it, and we'll look at another way to deal with it in a moment, but one way to do your validation is to stick it right here. And so this second argument of the form, you're going to define a function that returns an object that is all of your rules. So I can say I want it required, which is that guy right there. And oops, which field do I want required? Well, this is going to give me something I call a root path. Other people call it a schema path, but it's basically the path to my form. Because here I've created the form. This is the path to the form. I can then use the form root path dot, and I can get at all my fields. So you notice that again, all of these are all of these. So I want to say I want required first name. I can also optionally, and I don't have to, but I can optionally specify here, right here, my message so that I don't have to put it in my HTML. But I can put it in my HTML if I'd prefer. So then we're going to do the same thing. Well, I messed up that typing, but it found it anyway.
Is that second parameter to required, is that a strict pattern, or can we make that anything we want?
There are several different overload options. Is that what you mean? So I can define other things here. Is that what you're asking?
So in our application, whenever we're defining a validation rule, whether or not it's required or what have you, all of our messages are actually signals to handle translations. And we built that right in next to the validation.
I see what you mean. Oops, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know if I need that, probably.
It would be computed. The first way would mean that it's the actual signal. But that seemed to take it, so you have the flexibility in that structure to do what you need, or what I was talking about.
Let's see if that works when we run.
Okay.
But that was a very good question. All right. So the last one then that we talked about doing is min length. So that's root path dot last name we decided. So the second argument here is what that min length is. So I'm going to say 2. And then again, I'm just going to copy the message that I have here. Just save on some typing. I just reformatted there. All right. So here is how we've defined our validation. So then when we bring our form back up, we'll see if we Oh, well, duh. The second part of this is that you have to actually add something to the HTML to display a message. Forgot that little part.
Oh, I was like, what is she missing?
I'm not telling the HTML to display anything, so it's invalid, but we can't see that. All right, so I'm going to paste in some code. So what this is doing is this is referencing the form's first name field and checking to see if it's invalid. And if it's invalid, it's going to display the error messages. So let's try that one first. And that is very irritating, right? Because you haven't even had a chance to put anything in and it's already giving you an error. So what you probably really want to do is you want to check for invalid and touched.
Mhm.
And that way, when you bring up the form, it won't immediately, and refresh, it won't immediately say you have a problem before you even had a chance to touch the field. So we're going to do something similar for the last name. Again, I'm just going to copy it. There's a lot of typing there. Let's see, I want it right here. So again, it's checking if it's invalid and touched, then it's going to loop through the errors and display all of the error messages. So now when we go here and we refresh, if we touch it, then it's going to give us the errors. I should have capitalized that. Oh, well, and if I do type a name, it's going to say, oh, no, you need 2 characters here. And so then that's better. Okay. One of the things that's kind of ooky about this, though, is it's starting to muck up with our component code here. And it also is starting to make it look like these are actually associated with the form, which they don't necessarily have to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some separation of concerns here. So right here where we're defining our interface, we're going to identify our initial data. So we're going to create a constant that has our initial values. And the one really nice thing about having it here is as this changes, it's going to be easy to see that we need to change this as well. So then in our component code, we don't need all of this extra stuff, and we can just say initial data. So that dramatically simplifies that. And I'm going to just add, oh, and this message actually worked. If we, so you can do it through signals that way. And then all of this stuff is kind of yucky in here. So what we can do is in a whole different file, and I put mine in the same place as my interface, but you could even put it in a whole different file. I create a constant that's defined as a schema, and I need to import that. Oh, and I need to import these too. Import. So what this is doing is it's defining a schema for my data model, and it's defining all of my validation requirements. And you can see that it is following that same basic syntax that we had before. And you could define, again, other signals to store the text in or whatever that we want to do. And so then here, we just reference that thing instead. So it's user profile schema. And so our code here, we guess we don't need that anymore. Our code here becomes extremely more condensed. So we only need our signal and our form, and we're passing in that schema. So what do we think?
Like it, yeah, I like it. We have one place where we define our data structures, the rules for those data structures. So yeah.
And quick question. I completely agree. I love this. I'm like chomping at the bit to be able to get to V21 to redo all of our forms. My question is, those schema, or that schema that you created, those are composable, are they not? Like if I wanted to create a a first name schema and then a last name schema, then I could essentially create a user profile schema that would apply both of those schemas as needed to each, correct?
Absolutely. And that is the recommended way if you're doing arrays of things. So if I had, in addition to last name, first name, I had an array of prior jobs, first thing that came into my head, I would define the prior job with its own interface, its own initial data, its own schema, and then I would compose this schema with that schema plus whatever other fields I would want. So yes, it's possible to do that at any level. And it's kind of the way to do it when you're dealing with arrays of objects. If anyone's interested in more information about that, I did recently do a video on how to do arrays of objects that you can check out. A YouTube video.
And in this schema, is there any way to be like required root path.all, or like, are there shortcuts like that where you can just say?
No, not that I am aware of. You can, though, do conditional validation, which is the next thing I wanted to talk about. So let's go back to the form a minute. We really don't need the employee number unless the user picked an employee, because a guest doesn't need an employee number. So we really only want that to be required if the user picked the employee. So we can also do validation rules that are conditional. So the way that I would do that is I'm going to say required, and I'm going to give it a root path. This time we want to deal with the employee number, and we're going to give it a message. And I'm going to copy the message again so I don't have to type so many words. But this time, in addition to the message, I am going to add a when. And what this does is it lets me define a function as to when this is required. So the function should return a Boolean value, and when that Boolean value is true, it will be required. When it's false, it's not required. So I'm going to define an arrow function here. This gives me a context object, which gives me the context of that particular field. And so I can say with that context, I can get the value of any of the fields of the structure. So I want the value of the root path dot user type. And if the value of the user type is employee, then I want it to be required. So I can do, so I can do validation like that. All right.
Will it be like preemptive yelling at you like before user type is set? Or I assume if user type is null, it won't.
But user type is an empty string, so that won't be true. So
that won't be an employee, so it won't say anything. Yeah. Okay. So we need to go to our HTML then and add some code here again to display our errors. Otherwise, we won't see those nice error messages. So I'm going to stick it here. And again, this is the same code I've been using. You can also write yourself a little component so you don't have to keep repeating all of that code. Anyway, all right, so we have our rules then. We can bring up the browser. And now if we go to employee number and pop out, it doesn't tell us anything. But if we pick employee, now it's going to say employee number is required. If I refresh, pick employee, type in, and it says employee number is required. And as soon as I do that, it's not required anymore. So I have the ability to have validation that is conditional on another parameter.
And you've written, let's see, what validation rules have you written? First name is required, last name is required, last name length, and employee number is required when in about, what, 7 lines of code? 8. I'm sorry. Less than 10.
Yeah. And they also, in addition to all these, there's a pattern. So we could decide that we want that employee number has to match a particular pattern. So we can say root path dot employee number, and then we can give it a pattern. I'm just gonna copy mine. So in this case, oops, I need to import that. So in this case, it's 2 capital letters and then a dash and then 4 digits. And so now, so all I did was that. That's the one thing I did. I didn't do anything else. And now when I come back here and type anything in, it's going to tell me that it's not of the right format. So it's very easy to add all sorts of additional validation there. You can also do custom validation. Do we have time to demonstrate that?
We do.
Okay.
We're making time. You want to stay here for another hour? We're good.
I know.
I'm good. I don't want to
Deborah Kurata. She can stay as long as she wants.
So, thank you for that. So let's say that we have some weird kind of complicated business rule. And, you know, when you're doing a demo and you have these weird things, it seems weird, but in real life, they have all sorts of weird things like that. So we're going to say that if the user is an employee and they're marked as a full-time employee, the 4 digits at the end of the employee number must be less than 5,000 because of our system of how it numbers full-time versus part-time employees. Okay, so there is no built-in validator for that kind of validation. So we're going to create our own. So the first thing we're going to do is write a little function to do that. And again, that's kind of long. I'm just going to copy and paste it, and then I'll talk through it. So this function is called check employee number. When you're creating a custom validator, you only need to know one thing, or I guess it's 2 things. If it's valid, return null. If it's not valid, return the error. So if it's not full-time, then we don't care. So we're just returning null. Because if it's part-time, we don't care what the number is. Otherwise, we're going to pull off the last 4 digits. And then if they're less than 5,000, it's good. And we're returning null. If anything else, then we're going to define a kind of our error. I just called it invalid employee number, and then our message. Then up here at the top, in our schema here, we are then just going to say validate. And so that's also a option here in addition to pattern and the rest. And we're going to say root path dot employee number. And then we're going to say that we want it to call this function. So we're going to give it a function that's going to get that context. So that kind of works like the when. I just pointed to my screen like that was helpful. So then we can call check employee number, and we are going to, missing a parenthesis here, and we need to pass some values in. So we want to pass in the value of the field. So we're going to say ctx.value, which will be the value of the employee field. And the second thing we're passing in is ctx.value of, which will be then root path dot is full-time.
This is really cool that now we can grab over to a sibling and get its value or its state. This was not really possible before.
Right. So I can use value to get the current context field's value, which is employee number, or value of, again, like I did here, in order to get, as Manfred said, any of the sibling items in the tree. So when we go run this, and again, I didn't change anything else. So that was all I had to do. And now I can type in AA 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's fine. Let's see. What is the, I forgot my business rule already. must be less than 5,000. Okay, so we want a big number. So we're going to say 6,000. And it's fine, but as soon as I pick employee and full-time, then it's not fine. Not full-time anymore, it's fine. Full-time, not fine.
That's so cool.
Guessed it.
What do you call this, Deborah? Do you call this like elevated OP elite angular validating? Like, what's the name for this? What you're doing right now?
I call it a custom validator.
Custom valid. Okay, that's much better than my name.
All right. So I had one more thing to show. Do I have time for that too?
Yes.
Yeah, and then I have a question. So whichever order you want to do it in.
Okay.
Wait, is your question about the validator? That's important.
Kind of.
Go ahead.
Not the custom one, though. Go ahead and run with yours, Deborah.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a little funky that when you're a guest, you still see the employee number. So we want to be able to hide that. So one of the reasons why this might be called a schema and not a validator is because you can have more than validation in here. You can actually have logic kinds of things. So I can have enabled, and then I can specify a clause as to when to enable something. I can have disabled, and again, a clause similar to identify when to disable it. Or in our case, we want it hidden altogether. So I can actually add hidden in here, hidden, and I specify which one I want to hide root path dot employee number. And then I give it, again, a function identifying when I want it to be hidden. And again, to prevent so much typing, I'm just going to paste that in. So when the value of the user type, and again, I have to use value of and not value because I'm not getting the employee number, I'm getting a related field, the user type. So when it's not employee, I want it hidden. Now, if you use enabled or disabled, then that would be all I would need to do, because Angular can put in the HTML attributes needed to enable or disable the field. Well, there is no HTML attribute to just hide like this. And so we actually have to make a change to the HTML as well.
Ridiculous.
So here on our employee number, we're just going to add our little if statement. So, whoops, where am I going? Stop. Okay, and then at the bottom, we're adding, and I just installed 21.2 with the new prettier by default, and so I will automatically indent correctly now the if blocks. Yay. Okay, so if it's not hidden, then it's going to show this. So I'm checking the forms, employees number hidden state, and if it is, I'm hiding this. So I don't need any logic in my component. So again, reminder, this is all that's in our component. And when I run this, when it first comes up, notice that the employee isn't in there. I probably should have stuck full-time in there too. But as soon as I click that, then it's there. So I can actually do that real quick. I can stick this in there too.
So I'm confused. What's hiding it? What's the actual mechanism that's hiding the markup? Or
by setting it here, this is the forms package, the signal-based forms, is using this to determine whether or not to set its hidden property. So in this field tree that this is creating, or that the form is creating rather, it is going to mark the employee number field with a hidden flag if this is true. And then if that is true, I'm checking it here. Is this hidden field flag set? And if it is not set, here's my not here at the beginning, then it's going to display all of my stuff. So now when I bring it up, did I not do that right? Oh, I just didn't refresh. So now I'm not seeing any of that extra stuff until I hit employee. And if I hit guest, it goes away.
does marking something as hidden take it out of the model?
Not done this way, no,
Okay.
because it has to be there in order to be checking it.
What
Okay.
way would it take it out of the model?
Well, if you actually deleted, if I went through here and, well, you can do this and it will take it out of the model. It does not know how to, oops, no, I'm sorry, I did that in the wrong place, up here.
I see.
If you made it optional.
If you define it as undefined, or if you make it optional,
Oh, so optional will if it's not like if it doesn't
optional
use it?
is it's not going to be in the model because it doesn't know whether it's going to be there or not.
That's
So
good to know because I love me some optional, but not if it's gonna willy-nilly
Well,
not
yeah.
be in the model.
if you put that back to optional real quick, on line
Yeah.
21, it was basically giving you an error saying you can't make it required because it's optional.
Did it say that?
Yeah. This is saying that it can't deal with undefined. Yes. I have a whole YouTube video that I did both on nulls and on undefined. I did two separate videos. One that's on optional properties and undefined, and the other one's on nulls. And the one thing that was changed in 21.2 is that they do now allow nulls for numeric fields, but not string fields.
Okay.
So if I added weekly pay as a number, I could set this to a number or null. And then that would actually work. But basically what they're doing is, my understanding anyway, is that they are catching the null and replacing it with nan, not a number.
Oh, so Logan actually asked earlier in the stream, he saw there were some changes in 21.2. Can we dig deeper into those? You've already mentioned two. So you mentioned the nesting with prettier and then this one. Is there anything else that you've noticed so far? Because you said you updated.
Yes. I'm going to get rid of this because that's just going to be a problem.
Okay.
So yes, and this is a little bit of a longer story, but one of the things about a form is if you're doing this right, and I did not do this right, I just did it. You notice on my form, I have nothing up here. What I really should have in a real application is a whole bunch of stuff about submitting and a whole lot of, I don't remember all of the stuff that needs to go in there. But frequently you put a lot of stuff up on your form in order to have it handle correctly the submission process. And it's not coming to me right at the moment, all of the things that you have to put up there. But anyway, so what Angular did in 21.2 is they added another imports here that I can use. And I'm running to my notes here because this is all brand new. I just started playing with it yesterday and I don't remember everything. Okay, so it's called form root. And that is meant to identify the root of your form, which is basically your form itself. So up here, then in the form, you specify form root and and then give it your form. So user profile form. What that does is it improves your submission logic so that it handles better your submission. And then the second half of that is they added a third argument to this guy where you can specify your submission. So normally, again, in a real application, you would have a on submit, and you would have a bunch of code in here that would know how to submit your form and all that kind of stuff. So instead of any of that, you now then have here that you specify a submission. So, whoops, it's an object. And again, this is kind of new. And as part of that submission, you have an action. And with the action, then I'm actually going to paste this. You can, oh, I guess I need, I'm surprised that's not giving me an error. I haven't injected the user service. So I'm going to say user service equals inject user service. Okay. So what this is doing is it's going to await a call to my save method from my API. And I'm passing in the entire value off of the form. And then it is resetting the form to its initial data. So I can then have all of this right in my form declaration, how I want the form submitted. I don't know if this is going to work because I didn't practice this, but we'll see if this goes. I'm going to open the console and put in something valid here.
If it doesn't work, we'll create an issue and we'll sign it to Logan. It's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be calling my message.
Perhaps you try to just press enter in the form. I think this should submit it.
Oh, because unless
I wonder if I even have that.
Submit.
Again, this wasn't part of my originally planned content, but I'm wondering if I don't even have my button defined as a submit button.
Yeah, it's type button.
Yeah. Let's try that. That is probably the problem.
Refresh.
Okay. No, that's still not doing it.
Is user type required or no?
I don't think we coded that.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. I'm just going to exit that entirely because I did one of those cooking show kinds of things, and I have the done one right here. And this one I know does work. So we're gonna.
This is you pulling the done turkey out of the oven. I love it.
Yeah. And so this one does have user type required because I did add that all on here. So I'm going to, put that on here. And I'll just do guess to save and then F12, open my thing there. And you can see that it's saving. It says saving and then it has save profile. So I have something that's not quite right in this one, but this one works and we can look at this code. Let's see. So here's my HTML. Here is the component code. So here I created just a signal to hold my save button text so I could change it. So I change it to saving. And then after I change it back to the default. And then here's the same code that I had before. Other than that, this pretty much looks like my other code. Up at the top, I have my form root. And for the button itself, I just have submit on it. I'm scrolling down, so it's just a submit button. So I don't quite know what the difference. Oh, I'm not sure that I updated that version of the project this morning. I know I did this one because I wanted to make sure this worked. So that might just be I haven't gotten off the
That's okay.
Preview that I was using.
You did mention one thing that I wanted to go back on is when you mentioned that to hide a button, there were no attributes that Angular could add. Can you go back to your HTML and I want to inspect the inputs? Sorry, in the browser.
Oh,
By using the required validator,
oh, yes, they do.
the input automatically put the required attribute. Actually, if we look at last name, that would probably be better because we might even see a min length attribute on that input.
All right. Yes. According to the documentation, they do, but we can drill down and double check that. Not that one. This one, form, label, input,
Required.
And they do min length and max length and min and max, I believe, as well.
So there's a use case to not write your own custom validators, but to use the ones Angular provides as part of signal forms.
Yes. And oh, that was one of the other things. I was not able to think of what one of the other things that we normally have on our form is to tell it to ignore the regular validation, the HTML validation. And we don't need to have that anymore because that, let me go back to it. By having this form directive that we've added, it now takes care of not needing to have that anymore. So we used to have auto validate or something like that. Do you remember what that was called?
No validate.
No, was it called auto validate?
I thought it was called no validate.
Oh, no validate. Yeah. You don't need that anymore because form root automatically takes care of that.
Form root takes care of it. Oh,
thank you, form root.
Yeah. And then I just have autocomplete off because I find that irritating when I'm trying to demo something. So yes, it populates the attributes. Oh, kind of following with that code. If we did enabled instead of hidden, so if we change this to enable, is it enabled? I don't see it listed as an option.
Did you mean disabled?
I thought that had both.
Okay.
But I see disabled. I didn't see enabled. So we'll just do it disabled. So disabled if it is not employee. Yeah. So if we do it that way with the disabled and then go back to the form, we can see that it's disabled and you'll actually see that it did add the attribute on here. Drill down 40 layers. Oops, that would be the employee. That looks close. So here you can see it says disabled.
Disabled on it. Oh, this is so cool.
Okay, one of the other things that I did on this version that I didn't take the time to do is you notice that the little asterisks are on here. I actually did that also in the HTML by querying the values. So if we look at the first name, here it's asking if it is required, then put the little asterisk. So that way, if the business rules ever change at some point, I don't have to change the HTML. It will just put that. Plus, for something like the employee name that wasn't always required, it will show the asterisk when it is required and then not when it isn't. So like right now, you see that it's not. And if I click it, now you see that it's there. So a lot of cool stuff.
Dynamically
very
data-driven.
cool. Do you mind if I share the GitHub link? Wayne was asking for it earlier, and it made me look for it, and I found it. So may I share, Deborah?
Yes.
Thank you. You're the best.
I like
Any other questions?
No, just taking a step back and looking at what signal forms is, it kind of takes, in my opinion, the best of both worlds from what's offered from template forms and reactive forms. You get this whole idea of the declarative pieces of reactive forms of, hey, this is my model, these are the constraints and everything else that's that defines what my model is, or my schema, not just model, but the full schema of enabled, disabled, hidden, valid, all of those pieces. You get to do that declaratively up front, but at the same time, your template is just the template, and sprinkle in some information into your template and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about it is it only really requires the form field. So it doesn't require that you put very much else in here. I mean, we of course want to display our error messages, but the only thing that you really have to get it to hook up is that thing.
I do have one question, and you can tell me, shut up, go find the answer online, and that's completely okay. Async validators, I know that they're there. I think it's like validate async or async validate. One of the two is in one of those helper methods like required and validate. My question is, how do you handle the pending state if the user were to try to submit the form?
There are some options, and again, I have not. I mean, this is brand new from 2 days ago, so I have not played with it much. But there are some options that you can set with the submission that will identify how it should handle that.
Okay.
And I don't remember exactly what the syntax is. YouTube video probably pending. But yes, there are some options of how to define some of that. I read an article about it, but I did not do it myself, and so I don't remember the exact syntax.
That's okay. But there's looks like there's some API built in to the submission logic to handle async validators of when a validation is pending.
Yes.
Awesome.
Is this, do you think this is the last iteration of it? Like, do you think we're pretty close?
Iteration of forms,
signal forms before they get launched into the world.
If they're thinking of releasing in May, then I would think that it's going to have to be getting close. But they have made, like that change that they just made with adding this whole submission thing. I mean, that's quite a not insignificant change. There is also an submit function that you can still use if you would prefer, but I believe the recommended way is to do it with the submission.
Ole was asking, so we don't need submit function with new form root directive.
Correct. Because this replaces that. So you would do one or the other. I don't think that would make sense to do both.
Okay. Someone had asked earlier too, do you see this replacing, was it NGRX store that they had asked about? Trying to find the comment. Yeah, there it is. Can Angular signal form replace NGRX signal store?
The signal store is for managing state. This is just for managing forms. So it's two entirely different things. So I don't think that that one would replace the other. I would think that they would work together. I have not looked into how that together would work, but especially since it's signal based, I would think you'd be able to easily work with it being in a signal form. But as I said, I haven't tried it. I don't know if Manfred has. Have you tried that? Working with signal store with signal forms?
Yeah, so for me, it's a different story. The one is for state management. The other one is for forms management. And yeah, there's some gray zone in between, of course. So I guess sometimes people want to put this field tree into a service if you need it in several, steps of a wizard. And I know that some people think about a community extension to bring in this field tree to the signal store. But in my opinion, it's about two different stories: form state versus application state.
Yep, I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of reuse from the schema definitions of what defines what a schema is, or these different types of schemas of, hey, this validation is there, it makes sense, and reuse that across multiple places versus an entire form. The way that in the application I've been working on, we have all of our validations defined as just 3 pieces of information right now. I modeled it off of what Signal Forms has of here's a kind, here's an is valid function that takes in a value and gives you a Boolean, and that's all that logic is. And then there's a message that is a signal for the translated error messages, because we support multiple languages. And I have a conversion function that spits out a validator function. And my goal is, when we get to Signal Forms, is instead of spitting that out, to spit out a schema.
You're like, I like it. You're stepping. You're taking little steps so that when you can take the leap.
This way I don't have to change logic later on. It's just a different mapping.
Are you far, Mike, from being able to be fully up to date?
We're at 20, so
Oh, okay.
not far, but
you're not running experimental in prod.
I didn't say I was against doing that. But at the same time, if I could put the legwork in up front so that I could write those translations to go from the root validation object into a schema, then I'll be ready to roll once we do get to where we want to go.
This has been amazing, Deborah. I cannot thank you enough for coming on and giving us more than an hour of your time. And the code was so beautifully explained. My goal is to teach as beautifully as you do one day, man.
Whatever you just say, thank you very much.
It just made me sad because I'm still on 20 and I can't use it yet. But that's not a you thing. That's a universe thing.
I was just reading through some of the comments, and I saw the comment about Star Wars. Almost all my sample apps are Star Wars apps, but I couldn't get enough of the right kind of fields that I needed for that.
Oh, so it wasn't that you are now abandoning your love of Star Wars. That's not what's happening.
No,
okay.
They're employees of the Republic.
Well, Lance was saying earlier how amazing it was that you were not only live coding, but live coding based off of comments that you couldn't predict. And I was like, yeah, she's pretty baller. So, well, thank you. Any closing comments, Manfred or Mike? I think that's all I have for this week.
Picks.
I'm fine.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Deborah. And we're going to have the recording up soon, and I'll make some fun clips of all the learnings, but we appreciate you and everything you do for our community. So thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.